We should be there within another 15 minutes of driving. If I'm reading this right, and I'm pretty sure I am, we're only a few miles away. All topped up on gas? Good. We even have an extra canister to spare. Should help when we go to offer up the truck in exchange for a place in the community. No, I mean, I am prepared to hit the road again, if you want to. It's just that... Do you mind if we have one more night, just you and I? No, of course I want to go down there, I do. It's what we've been working towards all this time, right? But I don't know exactly how things will go. We'll have to put our trust in people we don't even know. I just want one more night where it's just the two of us. Just someone I know I can trust. This spot is safe and defensible, and besides, it's starting to get dark already. I know it might rain, but it's nothing we're not used to, and we can always snuggle up in the truck, right? Besides, we've got a bunch of foodstuffs that were loaded into the vehicle. Most of it we can offer up, but I can sort through it. See about cooking us something special for our last night together on the road. Please? Thank you. Yeah, I'll start choosing some ingredients if you want to get a fire going. What do you mean? Of course I want to spend time with you. Why is that surprising? Look, you've been my constant companion for a few months, but that doesn't mean I'm tired of you. Quite the opposite. Let's see. Oh my god. There are fresh vegetables in here. I mean, they're a little wrinkled, like they've been in a root cellar, but not canned, not dried, not powdered. Real vegetables. Onions, potatoes, carrots. And there's flour. And oil and... paprika. I did promise rabbit stew after all. Mind if I use what's left from our hunting earlier today? Awesome. Yeah, if you can put this over the fire and start heating it up, that would be great. Thanks. Nah, I always liked cooking. I had plenty of practice cooking over an open fire thanks to the many expeditions with my brother. For a while we stocked our camp kitchen with canned chili and mac and cheese, but we eventually got picky. Wanted to challenge ourselves a bit, you know? So we started trying to make our menu a little less dependent on pre-made meals. We'd bring fresh veggies, pasta, rice, seasonings, stuff like that. We'd make foil packets full of things to roast in the coals or something that could be made in one pot. Neither of us had any experience hunting, but we did supplement our meals with fish when we went somewhere that we could go fishing. Once we even went digging for clams at the coast and made them with pasta. But usually we'd bring some kind of protein in the cooler. Oliver loved the culinary arts, so he could sometimes go a bit overboard, but I loved it. There were a couple of disasters, yes, and we occasionally had to fall back on roasting hot dogs and eating dry cereal, but we learned from it. My favorite? Probably the trip we spent up at a mountain lake for 3 days. We had pan-fried trout and slow-roasted potatoes for dinner each day, and blueberry pancakes for breakfast. Honestly, so good. Ollie made the best pancakes, hands down. Yeah, I do miss him. We were really close. I just don't stop and think about it too long. Everyone's lost someone at some point in all of this. And at least I didn't have to lose him to undead. I don't know if I would have had the strength to go through that. I've had time to grieve, but I don't know. I think he'd want me to use my energy to stay alive. Yeah, I can tell you about him. I'd like that. Well, he was 2 years older than me. When we were very small, we didn't get along at all. We were constantly butting heads and tussling with each other. I think my parents gave up on us, honestly, because despite the consequences of our actions, we kept repeating the behavior. But during first grade, there was this group of absolutely awful boys in my class who made it their business to bully everyone. At one point, they decided that I was their new favorite target. They'd been following me around all week, tugging on my braids, making fun of my Spider-Man t-shirt, calling me a nerd, whatever they could say to get under my skin. But at recess one day, they cornered me and it just got worse. I honestly don't recall what they said, but I remember hugging myself with tears running down my face, just wishing they would all disappear. And Ollie happened to be walking by with his friends. He marched over, wrapped an arm around my shoulders, and with his terrifying third-grade authority, told them that if he ever caught them bothering me again, he'd make them eat dirt. That's how I learned my brother was actually really popular at school. He took me to the cafeteria, gave me the cookie from his lunch, and walked me back to class when I stopped crying. He was waiting outside my classroom to escort me to our bus at the end of the day. You know, I can't say exactly what changed. Our parents were baffled, but from that moment on, he was my best friend. We bonded over our shared interest in superhero movies, we went for bike rides together, and, as I've told you, we spent a lot of time camping together. I'd go to his basketball games and cheer him on, he'd show up to my choir concerts, and the day he left for college, the only person that cried harder than me was him. But he never would have admitted that. But at his insistence, I applied to the same school for a different program, so we got plenty of time together once I graduated high school. After he got his degree, he got a job across town, so he was always nearby, looking out for me. He was the reason the two of us made it out of the city alive, actually. Yeah, he was a nurse. He was working at the hospital when a patient came in with what we now know to be telltale symptoms. It wasn't the very first case overall, but it was the first in our city, and the virus hadn't made news yet. Ollie watched the patient devolve into an undead state and attack 3 others, who then quickly fell ill. When his shift was over, he came straight to my apartment on campus. He was still in his scrubs. I knew something was wrong right away. He looked really upset. He said something had happened at work, but he'd gotten a few days off and just wanted to go backpacking with me. He told me to pack warm clothes, which was a little odd given that it was summer, but I did what he said. When he picked me up the next morning, he had a bag full of cash and a bunch of groceries and a firearm. We had made it about 3 hours out of town when the alert came over the radio. The virus had blown up overnight. The city was being evacuated, but not quickly enough. People were dropping like flies. I later found out that they burned my entire apartment block in an effort to quell the undead. I don't know if my roommates made it out alive, but I certainly would have been trapped there with them if Ollie hadn't gotten me out. He knew something was off right away and got us out of there. It's not that he was trying to hide it. He didn't know the magnitude of what he'd witnessed, and he just had a gut feeling that we should get out. But how could he tell a bunch of people, especially strangers, about a patient episode and a gut feeling? He just did what he thought was right. He always did. And he was only 25 when that guy shot him. He would be turning 26 this week, actually. Yeah, that's right. A squabble over ammo. No, it wasn't like that. He was trying to break up 2 people who were fighting. He stepped in between them and... yeah. And his last words to me were, "Don't be scared." He was the one who was dying, and he used his last breath to comfort me. No, don't be sorry. I'm glad to have a reason to talk about him. I miss him, but I'd rather remember him, even if it hurts. Of course. I'm happy to tell you about him. He would have loved you, honestly. There. Now we'll leave that to simmer for a while, add salt to taste, and boom, rabbit stew. It's going to knock your socks off, I promise. Cheer me up a little. How? A surprise for me? A CD? You found it in the glove box? What's on it? Ooh, somebody burned a playlist onto this thing. Classic. Of course that makes me happy. It's nostalgic. I miss the days before we had streaming services and shareable playlist links. Burning CDs for your friends, or your crushes, was a really fun way to show them how much you cared. Simpler times. Yeah, the truck has a CD player. You think that's a good idea? Of course I want to. Listening to some music would be really fun, but I don't want to run the car battery down, and we have limited gas if we're talking about just letting it idle. You're right. A few minutes won't hurt. That's true. We are only a couple miles from Silverton at this point. We could still walk in. Besides, we've been through hell, so we deserve a little break, right? And I thought you were supposed to be the practical one. All right, fair enough. Let's pop it in, see what's on it. Wow. I hadn't really thought about how much I missed listening to music. Back then I'd have music on all the time, driving around town, during my workouts, while I was doing homework or cleaning the house, always. I loved it. I definitely took that for granted. I took so many things for granted. No, I don't recognize the song. It's mellow, though. Pleasant. Maybe the truck's original owner wrote their own music. Oh no, I was not a musician. I can sing, and I did choir in high school, like I said, but instruments were beyond my capability. I gave piano an honest try, but it never really stuck. What about you? Used to be that asking about someone's hobbies, like playing or listening to music, would be one of the first things you'd do when getting to know a person. Now it's just a brief assessment for whether that person will help or hinder survival. I miss learning the softer, more wholesome things about people. I miss seeing their faces light up when they spoke about something that just brought them joy. Dance with you? In the middle of a forest? Well, all right. I'm not very good at it. Ollie tried to teach me how to dance, but it has been years since those lessons. That's true. You are the only person who will see. But you're also the only person I'd want to impress. Of course. What do you mean, why? Isn't it obvious? Well, after our chat last night and the kiss, I suppose it's only fair to tell you. I've kind of been crushing on you since day one. Well, yeah, I pointed a gun at you. You broke into where I was living. I'd have been silly to let my guard down before I knew you meant no harm. But, I don't know. Once I realized you were hurt and you weren't a threat, all I wanted to do was help you. You seemed so genuine, and you trusted me. It took no effort at all to return that trust. And I mean, look at you. You're insanely attractive. Now, in case you haven't noticed, I'm covered in travel dirt too. I don't think I've had a hot shower in a year and a half. But even so, you're exactly my type. Even before the actual apocalypse started, if I had caught sight of you across a crowded room, I would have been instantly drawn to you. Whether or not I would have had the courage to talk to you is less certain, but I guess a global disaster has a weird way of bringing people together. And I'm glad it did. These last several weeks, taking shelter together, traveling on foot, looking out for each other, we've developed a bond, something really special. It's not just the life or death situations talking either, even though it is a very rare person who would walk into a camp full of armed people to rescue someone they'd only known for a couple of months. Even outside of that very selfless act, I respect you. I've come to rely on you. You're more precious to me than any friend I've ever had, and when you confessed to me last night, something in me just lit up. Despite the hopelessness of the world around us, the danger lurking around every corner, the uncertainty that we live through every single day, I just know that with you, everything is going to be okay. So, yeah, looking back on it, it's obvious I was falling for you the whole time. I just didn't realize it until you rescued me from that camp. And I didn't know how to say it until just now. I'm not great with words, but I hope you know how much you mean to me. Whatever happens, I just want to be with you.